Okay, are you ready for this? You can see my shadow from my phone. But we got dyno results on that saw. Dyno Joe gave it a dyno pull. That is the Holtzfforma 372 that Bellhopper built for me. We ran it the past 2 years for Clone Wars at Sawfest. First year we placed, what did we place? 6 or something like that. Last year, this past year though, I didn't even get on the list. I had a horrible run, so you know what I mean. It is what it is. A lot about racing is you. You're most of the equation. You could have the best tool in the world, but if you suck, you suck. But anyway, we got a dyno run on it. We're gonna make a couple of cuts. We're gonna go over the dyno results. And I actually built a 65cc pull-in that is very, very similar to these 372s. So it's closer to like a 365, like a 65cc version of the 372. And we're going to compare the dyno results of both of these saws. And I think you guys are going to be interested in this. But we are going to make a couple of cuts here. And if you've seen the video where I was getting this saw ready, we closed up the bar, sharpened up a chain and everything. So we're ready to go. This is a freshly sharpened chain, so we should get some pretty good cuts. This is how I sharpen pretty much all of my chains for video and so forth. I do have 2 different grinds that I use. This is what I use for speed, like if I'm going for more for speed. I have another grind that's more of a worker grind. It's a little more durable, but it's not as fast. And it favors longer bars better than this chain. This is just a little much. It does all right on like 80cc and higher, 80, 100cc range. This type of sharpening works pretty good on the long bars, you know, on those big saws. But if you try to put this chain on something smaller, they gotta work really hard for it. So you're going to see that today. You should see this saw is going to have to work for it. I mean, it's a hungry chain with an 8-pin sprocket. And this is kind of going to be leading up to a future video to where we are going to be analyzing the RPM of the saw and where it is on the dyno graph and trying to make it hungrier enough that we can use more of the available power that the saw has to increase the speed of a cut. And that could be through the chain, through sprocket sizes, and so forth. I'm set up, I can go all the way up to a 10-pin. So, you know, we're good to go on that end. But this is kind of like a prequel to that, because this is probably the chain we're going to be doing that testing on. This is a very easy grind to do, and it's pretty hungry, it's pretty quick, and it melts in oak like butter, or it turns oak into butter, I should say. You should see that. It's a very smooth cutting chain. But what do you say we move on with this? Let's go make 2 or 3 cookies down here with the 372 here. Hopefully it don't need tuned. I mean, it's been, well, I took it to Sawfest. I had it tuned up for Sawfest. Then we sent it off to Dyno Joe, and now it's here. So what's it been now? Month and a half? We might need to do a tune, but we'll see. The weather's changing. In fact, today is like the last warm day in the forecast. It's supposed to be in the 50s today, and after this it's going to just start dropping. And in a week we're going to be at like, I think our lows are going to be hitting around 18 and our highs are going to be in the 20s. So I don't think we're going to hit 30 degrees next weekend at all. So it's supposed to top out in the 20s. So it's a good opportunity to get a cutting video out. You know what I mean? We're burning wood. I'm probably already pushing half a cord. I just didn't show any of that stuff. You know what I mean? But yeah, burning wood right now, and we're staying nice and warm with our firewood. I keep rambling. You guys are probably waiting, right? Let's see this thing cut.
There we go. I think you guys got a pretty good idea out of that. She is pretty torquey. If I put that chain on a stock saw, you'd really notice a difference. But I can tell she is definitely working for it now with that setup. I really like it. That 8-pin with that chain, it cuts great. And this wood, I mean, I'm not taking it easy on it. We got 2 sets of girth rings there. You know what I mean? Not exactly the easiest piece of wood to cut. It's the crotch, where if you look on the back side, you got a limb growing out of it. So yeah, we definitely didn't take it easy on it with the wood, because I could have easily come over here, this nice big log, and taken our cuts from there. But nope, we made it a little more difficult, you know? So what do you say? We go inside the building here and we analyze our dyno results, and we'll compare the dyno results of the other saw we did that's 65cc against this one, which is 72cc. Alrighty. All right, we're here to the bench. I had to make some space. I am working on a pull and wild thing, and it's in my way. She's right here, actually. Working on the intake. We now have a full 360 degrees of intake timing. So I'm almost ready to put the intake together. But if you're interested in seeing the Wild Thing project, I probably won't show anything until this thing's running again. So the last video on it, we converted it to methanol. Stock saw on methanol. Now I'm doing this intake work. Going to do a tiny bit of port work besides that, and we're going to give it another test run and see how she does. But yeah, it's a full 360 degrees of intake timing. So we got some hefty modifications going on there. But you ready to see the dyno results? They're sitting here. My paperwork's getting crumpled up. I need to get a book together to save this. We got 3 papers here. We got one showing, this is the 365, this is the 372, and this one shows them both. So yeah, let's check her out. This should be interesting. I think you guys are gonna like this. Alrighty. All right, here we go. We come in at 8.41 horsepower with 4.46 foot-pounds of torque. So 8.41 horse, and you can see she's got a pretty nice peak there, doesn't she? I like the torque. See how the torque is really long and flat? I don't have that big mountain shape like you can see here. It's nice and flat, so we're able to hold torque all the way down, you know what I mean? Doesn't matter where we are in the RPM range. We really don't start dropping torque below 4 foot-pound until we're up here around 11,000. And we're down to about 3 foot-pound at 12,000 RPM. And I mean, this thing still will cut even at 12.8.
It just depends on how I have the chain and sprocket set up. So you see how she's dropping here? This is like, it just depends on how hungry I have it, but it will spin 12/8 in the wood if I set it up a little differently. I prefer a hungrier chain, so we are cutting down closer to like 12/5 or so down here. So you can see here, what I'm doing is as I pull it down in RPM, I'm using more of the torque for the cut. And you know, she peaks out here at around 11 grand. How fast would it cut if I started adding sprocket sizes and went bigger to increase the cut speed? You know what I mean? That's kind of what I'm moving towards in the future. But there she is. There's a dyno sheet for the 372. She winds out pretty nice. Torque nice and flat. This is a great dyno result from, I'm very pleased with this. Now the Poland, which is a 65cc version, I mean, if you look at the cylinders on them, they're basically identical to a 372. They're just like a 65cc version. And this was the dyno sheet on it at 8 horsepower, 4.38 foot-pound of torque. So you can see, as far as torque concerned, I'm just a hair under what he was accomplishing, and I'm a half a horse total less. So what am I, a tenth? Roughly? Half a tenth? No, a tenth. No, roughly a tenth under in torque. Really not much. I mean, the torque on the two saws is very similar, but the horsepower, he's a little higher because he is able to stretch it out in the RPM just a little bit more than what the 65cc is. You see it? And I think that might just be partly the displacement or whatever, but I've heard stories of how people are able to get this saw to run every bit as good as what you can get one of these to run. And these are 72cc. So like a 9 horsepower number is a hotter version. And we're at 8. The 8.41, if you want to get up high in the top 10 list at the races, you want that to be around 9 or so. So just to give you an idea, if you're curious to know how much power you need to get out of your saw. You know what I mean? Now here is the results, both of them on one paper. And you can kind of see how the 372 is the blue line. And you can see how it winds out a little peakier than my Poland. And I think I could raise the roof a degree or two and get that thing to wind out just a little bit more and probably line up with that 372 a lot closer. We'll see though, we may do that, we may not do it. I really like the way it runs, and part of me feels like I should just left well enough alone and maybe build another one or build a 365 and see if I can get it to wind out more. You know what I mean? That's probably the route I'm going to go. Build a 365 and see if I can get it to wind out a little more. But there she is. That's the difference between my 65cc saw and Bellhopper's 72cc. Now, as far as what the average is that a lot of people are getting, I think 7.5 to 8 horsepower is a pretty respectable firewood build. That seems to be what a lot of folks are getting out of the 372s. As far as like a good firewood build, you don't start seeing them hit 8 or better typically until they start doing, making them a little hotter. So this 372 is a higher compression style build. You've heard me talk about how there's different styles of build. This one is using the compression, the high compression, to help utilize as much of the energy as possible. You know what I mean? So like it's sitting at 245 pounds of compression. I have tested it. It is 245 pounds of compression. Some folks don't run it that high and rely more on the porting. So like if you'd talk to Bellhopper about this, he would say, yeah, he didn't do a whole lot of porting to it. Most of the work was done with machining. They're different styles of builds, and some folks prefer it one way, some folks prefer it another way. I kind of lean more towards the higher compression style. They do create a little more heat though. But you know how you're seeing that real flat torque curve? I typically see that more out of the compression style builds. Now I haven't analyzed a whole bunch of dyno results on saws that people have ported and everything. So don't quote me on that. Folks may be getting just as good as that without doing any machine work. I don't know. It's just I do tend to gravitate more towards the higher torque situation just from experience. They always seem to just hold that power, that grunt longer through, the RPM range. You know what I mean? So it's always kind of a trade-off. The thing is, like the higher compression is you're going to limit yourself trying to go to the higher compression style build. You will only get so far. If you want to go further than that, that's when you start getting into more and more port work, and it's the combination of both. So the one style of build will conflict with the other. You know what I mean? So you got to be careful that you don't go too far on one or the other, because they will conflict each other. So it's kind of like a balance between the two. Again, this is my experience. There might be folks out there doing really high compression builds that are turning 15 grand in the wood. I don't know. I've never seen it. And, there might be guys doing 15 grand in the wood with low compression. I've never seen it. You know what I mean? Like I've never seen a 13,000 saw or 13,000 RPM 20-inch bar deep in the wood without doing the machine work. I've never seen it happen unless they're doing fuels, nitro or something. So it's kind of a trade-off, I guess you can say. You got to decide. You got to do a lot of builds to kind of figure out what you like. You never get it the first time out of the gate. That's one of the things you'll see me do, is I'll build a saw and then I'll run it for a little while and be like, you know what, I want to make some changes, and I'll go in and make some changes. It takes a lot of patience, you know what I mean? But yeah, there's our dyno results. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Quite interesting if you ask me. So in case you're curious, Bellhopper was the first person I talked to whenever I got the results. And he is quite pleased with the results. And, I am too. So, hey, see you in the next one. Later.